Still be continuing with the plan with others of training the moderate Syrian opposition and trying to bring about a transition so we get rid of the Assad regime and Assad himself, who is one of the biggest drivers of terror in the region because of what he's done to his people.
Afraa Dagher, thank you so much for joining us today. This is obviously Amy from EdTV Productions, and this is a special for Off the Record. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome. Okay, so we're going to start off by asking you, the Western media, they're always portraying Assad as a dictator, and they're saying that he's always killing his own people. Now, as a person who lives in Syria, can you just explain to us a little bit about this?
Well, this is mostly the words of Western media press. And this is absolutely not true, because Assad is our elected president, and the ones who is killing Syrian people and civilians from the first moment are the so-called moderate rebels, and they were no moderate at all from the first of this so-called freedom revolution, and now they turned into another look. You can see now the ISIS and the Al-Nusra Front, and they are branches of Al-Qaeda in Syria. And from the first of this revolution, as it was in Libya and also in other countries as Tunisia, also Egypt, they were never peaceful protesters, and they try to destabilize Syria, to undermine Syria, and this is their plan here. They started by the way they are freedom seekers and revolutionaries, and now you will see how they became ISIS and Nusra Front and Free Syrian Army. And Syria was peaceful country, secular country before those. Just now you will see all these days and destruction in Syria.
And would it be right to say that all of these different groups are growing, like all the time? They're getting stronger. They're obviously being funded and just growing and becoming, you know, more of a threat.
Look, they are the proxies of the West and of the GCC. They are not Syrian. There is a mastermind behind them. They are mercenaries, came to Syria from over than 83 countries. And you know, the dirty rule of Turkey, of Saudi Arabia and Qatar, also of USA supporting them. They are their proxies here. They are the tools of USA in our country. And USA already involved in many countries, as Afghanistan, as in Iraq. They all the time send their troops to pretend that they bringing democracy to such countries, and the evidence is Iraq in a miserable way now. And the same for Syria. But in Syria it was alternative, those gangs, those free gangs. They call them Free Syrian Army, and in reality they are Free Foreign Army or Free gangs. And those, they destroy Syria. They fight on behalf of USA in our land. And because of those, later, USA made a coalition against ISIS. But this is not true. They are not against ISIS at all. They support ISIS.
Yeah, they're nurturing them, they're funding them, they're making sure that they're getting stronger every single day. Could you just tell us, why does Qatar and the Saudis and the UK want to get rid of Assad?
Yeah, for sure, because President Assad is independent president. He supports the resistance axis. He doesn't follow Israel or USR. And there is a big plan against this region. They try to divide Syria, not only Syria, all the Middle East, by the way. And before this, we all know that Mrs. Condoleezza Rice and her missionary campaign about the constructive chaos in the Middle East. And we cannot forget this. And they try to do this. They help this agenda to partition Syria, to balkanization Syria to small parts. We already have artificial borders, this up to the period of French mandate in Syria. And now they want to divide Syria more and more. Assad is against this, and Assad doesn't follow them. And Assad is trying to protect this country, the identity of this country, while they want to destroy all this and to eliminate the people here, exactly as they did in Iraq. And now they want to do the same in Syria.
Can you just tell us a little bit about what it was like in Syria before ISIS came along?
Before ISIS and also before the so-called revolution in Syria. Syria was so calm and peaceful country, and you can live even if you have a limit salary. Your salary was enough to live as a human, and now they destroyed everything. The so-called also moderate rebel, they used to bomb the infrastructure in Syria, and also to bomb schools, to bomb university, to assassinate scientists. That was before ISIS, by the way. So ISIS is already doing the same. They continue and complete each other. And you will see some from their side of the so-called rebels join also ISIS. And Syria was a peaceful country and very beautiful, and you can live as a human. But now, no, not at all. You miss everything, electricity, and you miss to live as a human.
Can you just explain to us the difference that between ISIS and the moderate rebels, please?
For me, I don't see any difference between them. Look, same slogan from the beginning. When they kill anyone, they are takfiri. And takfiri, that means if you are not believe the same what they believe in, so you are non-believer, and you deserve to be beheaded. And their slogan was Allahu Akbar, and they try to destroy the infrastructure, to kill, to bomb. You see suicide bombers from both of them. So I don't see any difference. They have the same agenda to serve the West.
The major news sources that we have are the BBC, and obviously a lot of people here watch CNN as well. Now, they're always portraying Assad as a dictator. Now, I just want to speak to you about the government army, Bashar al-Assad's army, the Syrian Arab army. Can you explain to me the difference between them and the Free Syrian Army?
Well, yeah. Bashar al-Assad, as I said, he is our president, our elected president, and I want to add something. We have many candidates, not only Bashar al-Assad at the time of election, and we chose Bashar al-Assad and we voted for him. And for Syrian Arab Army, yes, it is our army, our homeland defender, our homeland protector. Our soldier from those army is one from our families here in Syria. When any one of them injured or God forbid got martyr or something like this, you'll see all the people are so sad because this one is apart from our souls, from our families, is a brother or a husband or beloved one. But for the other side, meanwhile, the so-called moderate rebels, and I thought they are no moderate at all. How to be moderate with all these advanced weapons, with all these sophisticated weapons? They are not moderate, and yet they are backed by the West, backed by the GCC, the Saudi Arabia and Qatar, and those our enemy. those are here to destroy our country and to kill us and to bomb us. And on the other side, Syrian Arab Army is our homeland defender.
See,
That is the difference.
sorry?
That is the difference between the both of them.
Well, see, like what we get shown in the West, like what we get shown on our TV screens isn't anything like that. Like if we want to see how the Syrian people really feel about the Syrian Arab, we have to watch videos that have been put online, like people like yourself, you know, and we can see exactly what you're saying. You know, we can see that that is the truth, and what we're being shown here by the mainstream media, it couldn't be further from it at all. So, and this is why it's so important that we're speaking to you today and that you're able to tell us your truth and tell us as a Syrian person what it is like living there with all of this going on. So,
yeah, I want to add also something. Would you please let me? It is our simple right to defend our country. We are under global movement of terror. And you see the US has sent her jets under the name of anti-ISIS coalition to fight ISIS here because USA thinks that they are a real threat for USA when they kidnap an American journalist and as they posted that they are beheaded him. I'm not sure. I don't know if this is fake and false flag or it was true. But the point they send their troops by air by that coalition to fight ISIS. Why for Syria it is not allowed and to defend your country? And they accuse us, they accuse our government by killing people. Is ISIS is his people or Syrian is his people? So that is not true at all. That is irony.
So if the West were to back away and just leave Syria to get on with this and to fight ISIS, it's something that could be done. But the way that it's shown here is that ISIS are this massive entity, and even if the West were to leave them alone and let them get on with it, the West would have us here believe that ISIS are able to use their own resources by using kidnapping and obtaining money through inhumane ways. But the fact of the matter is this is just another propaganda tool, because ISIS is not even as big as what it's being made out to, like people in the West. So if everybody was just to leave Syria to it, they'd be able to completely exterminate ISIS.
Yeah, this is the key point here, exactly as you say, and not only to leave Syria alone, to stop funding and financing those terrorists. All the time they hold conference to support the so-called opposition in Syria, and they pretend that those opposition will fight ISIS and will topple Assad. And you see, the only one who is fighting ISIS in the ground is the Syrian Arab Army. No one of us watch any of those opposition fight ISIS on the ground, but we saw that the weapons which is sent to those opposition lately in the hands of ISIS. So they are one. And who is those opposition on the ground? The Free Syrian Army. And now this Free Syrian Army is a branch of Jabhat al-Nusra, Al-Qaeda, and they fight against Syrian Arab Army and against people. The only one who is defending Syria is Syrian Arab Army. Yes, they should recognize this truth and stop funding, financing, and training ISIS. They all the time, you can see camps in Jordan, also in Turkey, to train the troops of mercenaries to fight alongside with the opposition. And I told you on the ground, they're only ISIS now, and Jabhat al-Nusra. Jabhat al-Nusra is a branch of Al-Qaeda, and it is in the terrorist list. And also they send those mercenaries across the border into Syria. In the north of Syria, you will see Turkey with ISIS, and in the south of Syria, you see Israel, Jordan, also with Jabhat al-Nusra against Syria. So this is a global war against Syria. Because ISIS not alone. Their sponsors is USA and her allies, and also GCC and Saudi Arabia and Qatar.
So if the West were to get their way and they were to topple Assad, what do you think this would mean for the Syrian people, and in particular the Syrian women?
Yeah, the West the West is so arrogant. Why they want to topple Assad? We decide this, not the West. And from the first time we were in the street, we said by one voice, God, Syria, and Bashar. And who is the alternative of Assad? Where is the alternative? The good alternative. Those of opposition who are living outside of Syria and luxury life, and to be president of Syria and to be independent president, not following the West as puppet, and to be from the resistance axis is something not luxury. So Assad is not in luxury position. He is also soldier. He is resistant person. And so they want us to be ruled by who? By those ISIS, by radical Islamic, to back to the dark ages, the stone ages, where they want to, the woman is just for, no rule for the woman. But in Assad period, his priority is to be the woman the same level with man, and he cares so much of science, of internet, of many other issues as the West, as Europe, where he used to study in the past.
We don't get shown any of this side of Assad at all. So what I'm guessing you mean is that obviously if the US do try to topple Assad, then all they'll do is just put in someone else that they can puppet and control so that they can run Syria in the way that they want it to be run, pretty similar to the way that they're doing it in Iraq.
Exactly, in Iraq, also in Egypt, and also now in Yemen. Look, in Yemen, people don't want the new president, which is nominated by GCC and not elected by his people. But here they consider Yemeni people are not Yemeni people. They consider the Houthi people, which are a big percent from Yemeni people. They consider them Iranian or so. And they give Saudi Arabia the right to bomb those people. And they turned a blind eye on this. Same situation in Ukraine. But in Syria, people want their president, and hand by hand with our president, with our army, and they consider us not Syrian, maybe, I don't know what we are in their eyes, and they fight with the opposition, which are their tool in our country.
Afra, I'd just like to ask you, can you explain to me if you think that Russia are being helpful towards Syria? Are they doing enough? Are they doing anything at all in your eyes?
Russia is our good ally and good friend. We need more support from Russia, from Iran, from China, by the way, from our regional friends here in the region. And for Russia, we cannot forget that they use the veto to prevent the war on Syria in the year 2013. At that time, the opposition wanted Obama to bomb Syria, and so this is irony, yeah. But Russia used the veto, also China, and that is good because people here already in war and under missiles of the opposition, and we don't need more war. And you don't know what they may use in their war against Syria, exactly as the Arab NATO now is doing in Yemen. They use cluster bombs against civilian people in Yemen. They may use the same in Syria. But we need more support and more help because we defend not only Syria, we fight the terrorists on behalf of all the world, by the way.
Can you explain to me why you think that this coalition exists?
Yeah, this is they create the ISIS, they support ISIS to be as a horrible issue here, and then they made the coalition to fight this ISIS. It was just a pretext to justify their interference inside Syria, and now they do nothing to stop ISIS from advances from side to side under their eyes in Syria. by their convoys of vehicles and tanks. The coalition do nothing, just help them and support them, by the way. For what? To send later more ground troops. And this is for their intervention in Syria. They want to enter this country, to control it, to steal their wealth resources, and to divide this country, as I told you, to balkanization this country into small states, just hate each other under sects or and also they use the Kurdish component here. They try to name Syrian countries by Kurdish names, as in Al-Hataka, they try to name it Rojava. And they try
Kurdish name, did you say? They tried to name it with a Kurdish name?
Yeah, to let you remove your identity. They fight us in many ways, not only in by troops, by mercenaries. They want to remove the identity of Syria. Also, Kobani, it is a country, Syrian province, but they call it Kobani. And Rojava. Later, there is no Syria, and they want to make it, as I told you, to fight the minorities against each other, this sect against the other sect, ethnic also against each other. That's what they try to do. It's not normal war.
No.
It's not traditional war. No, it's something open war and something new.
War on like every level, including like psychological.
Exactly.
Recently, in the House of Commons, David Cameron has said that we need to remove the Assad regime. We need to remove Assad himself. What would your response be to that as a Syrian person?
Yeah, I don't know if David Cameron, the Prime Minister of UK, heard of something called the right of people to self-determination. So it is our right, our simple right. We are Syrian here, and we have our right to decide who is our president. And we made it. And we said we voted for President Assad. We are not sheep to. And I also want to tell him that the mandate British period has passed away, and now we are an independent country. That is my word to him.
Thank you. So I'm just going to give you like the floor to say exactly what it is you would like to say to people who live in the UK, America, Western society, basically. I want you to just be able to say whatever it is that you think needs to be heard by people who only listen to mainstream media and who trust in our government's decisions. What would you like to say?
Look at the history. Look at Iraq. What America did in Iraq. Iraq now is the first corruption country because of America, by the way. And look at Libya. They used NATO against civilian people in Libya. And in Syria, we are good people and we are human and we deserve to live in peace. And I wish they support us, they support Syrian people against their government in the West.
Thank you so much, Afraa. EdTV supports you 100%. Thank you so much for the interview. Thank you so much for helping us reach people and make sure that they understand the truth of what is going on in Syria.
Thank you so much for your program. Thank you.
This has been an EdTV special. We've just been lucky enough to speak to a political activist, Afraa Dagher, who's based in Syria, giving us a very current review of what's actually happening in Syria at the moment. We're in the UK and we're going to go out and we're going to speak to the general public and we're going to find out just what they know about our government's involvement in Syria.
Right, can you explain to us what you know about David Cameron's involvement in Syria?
Very little, to be fair. I know generally, well, the perception you have is that they follow they follow what the US kind of policy and that's what's approved, but I would say there's not a lot on the news about kind of more David Cameron's involvement. You see more about kind of NATO as a whole and kind of just Western forces, but from like the general perception that I've had from the media is that the Assad regime was falling to the rebels, and we armed them, and then the kind of spring of IS came up, and now it's in a bit of limbo. David Cameron doesn't really know who he's supporting, so that's the kind of impression I get, but I don't really know David Cameron's policy.
Well, at the minute, he's gone in the House of Commons and he said that we need to get rid of Assad and we need to get rid of his regime.
Okay.
And also he's happy to arm the moderate rebels. Now, there's not much in the Western media showing us what the moderate rebels are doing, but they are completely inhumane. They are killing children, they are raping women, they are absolutely destroying cities and history. They're destroying Syria. David Cameron has gone in the House of Commons and has said that he is happy to support these people.
Okay.
How does that make you feel as a British citizen?
Well, obviously with the that information, that's not cool. It's with someone like that, with David Cameron, I don't know. It's one of those where he's kind of between a rock and a hard place. Like Assad's also killing citizens, and may not be committing the. Well, I've seen lots of stuff about chemical weapons and all this sort of stuff from the. I'm not sure actually. I kind of flick between, but I've seen
mainstream media channels,
kind of BBC, Sky News. I could be wrong, but at the time it wasn't confirmed. It was kind of rumours of Assad using chemical weapons and stuff. So I guess I'd have to really have a look at the facts from like both sides of the argument. But obviously I would not condone any kind of standing in and supporting rebels that are doing stuff like that. That's just not a good idea. You've got to be sure you're giving the support to the right people.
What do you know about our government's involvement in Syria?
A little bit, but not too much, no.
What do you know?
I knew that they did, I think, a few airstrikes there a few years ago, and they've been sending troops to train and trying to help aid people that were like women and children. That's as far as I.
So the people who that they're training, who are those people ending up fighting?
They end up fighting the militants of Syria that I was aware of.
Okay.
So it was, they were training rebels, I think, to help fight.
Yeah.
That's all I know, really.
Do you know anything about President Bashar al-Assad?
Not much, no.
No? From what you can gather, do you see him as a good president or a bad president?
What I heard from mainly the news was that they weren't particularly keen on him being president. That's all about I know.
Do you know why?
I think I didn't really know why. I think it was more he wasn't really elected by the people. He was more put in place than anything. But that's all I really knew.
Okay. Well, I'm just going to let you know that we have some correspondents in Syria, and his people absolutely love him.
Oh, really?
And, yeah, I know. This is it. This is what we're trying to portray: is that the Western media do not show you what is true whatsoever. But the Syrian people want the West to leave them alone.
Right.
They want because the thing is, if they just left Syria to it, they'd be able to exterminate ISIS.
Yeah, it does seem that way.
Yeah. What news channels do you use?
Well, I use BBC and ITV, but it's mainly BBC. But they seem to say one story and then something different next.
Really.
So they're hard. Do you know anything that's going on in Syria at the moment?
Well, I've seen some on the news, like all the Ukraine, Syria, and all them things, and well, that's just pointless. But you know, we never end this because it's all day business. It's all connected with United States, and they never want to win a war. They just want to run a war because that's the best business. You've got petrol, you've got ammunition, you've got guns. There's nothing like a better business than a war.
Okay. What news channels do you watch?
Any?
Do you watch Press TV?
Press TV? Yeah, in my friend's house, yes.
Yeah?
He's watching it all the time.
Yeah? Oh, have you ever watched it? So you know nothing about our government's involvement in Syria?
Not really, no.
No? Do you watch the news?
Yeah.
You do?
A little bit.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Do you trust the news?
Yeah.
Do you trust your government?
I don't really know it.
No? Can you just let me know how much you know about our government's involvement in Syria at the moment?
I don't actually know anything.
You don't?
No.
Do you watch the news?
Sometimes, but not a lot.
Which channels do you prefer to watch?
I don't actually watch a lot of television at all. So.
No? So you don't keep up on any kind of current affairs via the internet or?
Not really.
No. Alright then. Can I just ask you what you think of David Cameron?
I It's all right.
Okay, thank you so much. About our government's involvement in Syria, please.
Very little, actually. Very little, I have to say.
Yeah. Do you watch the news?
Not a lot. We watch the main news, but we don't follow news every day. We mostly watch it on the internet.
You do. What channels are you watching on the internet?
We'll do well, just the BBC News, and then we'll watch BBC News on the telly.
Okay, and do you trust the news indefinitely?
No.
No?
No.
Do you trust David Cameron?
No.
No.
No. Not saying I didn't vote for him. I wouldn't say that, but no, I don't trust politicians. Period.
Okay, so if the Western media are portraying President Assad, who is the president of Syria, they're portraying him as a dictator. They're saying that he's killing his own people. None of this is actually true. We have friends in Syria who are telling us exactly how it is, exactly what's going on, and we're actually arming the moderate rebels, as in our government are arming the moderate rebels who are going in, who are raping women and killing children and just destroying Syria. How does that make you feel to know that David Cameron is behind these decisions?
I'm not a political person in that as much. And where is this going to?
It's going on our own personal page.
Right. Is this going on the internet?
Yeah.
Ah, okay. Well, all I will say is that Saddam Hussein was treated just the same. Friend one day, enemy the next. And I'd imagine that this will end up just the same.
Why do you think that this happens?
Interests of the Western world. That's all it is. But yeah, I'm not a political person, so I don't know what this is going to do for you. But I don't trust politicians in general, and that's all there is. You know, I'm sorry, but that's how they are, and that's my opinion. So, okay.
Okay, guys, do you want to just talk to us about what it is you know about our government's involvement in wars in the Middle East?
Okay, well, for a start, David Cameron happens to be a friend of Israel. His allegiance is actually more with Israel, or to be more precise, Rothschild Zionism, than it is for the British people, because they're not interested in the British people. The British people are just funding his tyranny to follow the Rothschild Zionist plan. And at the minute, ISIL, which is the Mossad-sponsored organisation, let's call it, in the Middle East, running rampant all through Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan. They're all in that region, all destabilising it, and it's just all this. It's basically the Machiavellian playbook. It's Israel trying to upset the world so it can create its utopia, its post-civilization. We are God's chosen people. You know, we're not getting down on Jewish people because they're just people that practice a faith. This is an ideology. This is a wicked ideology. This is Rothschild Zionism. That's the problem. It's these bankers that happen to be Jewish. It's these media controllers that happen to be Jewish. The Jewish part's got nothing to do with it because, as I said, Judaism is just a religion. It's the ideology of Rothschild Zionism that ISIL is terrorising the Middle East, and the likes of David Cameron, they're just the puppets of it, friends of Israel, you know. Why is David Cameron and all his cronies more interested in Israel and what's going on in the political scene over there than what's going on here? They're just screwing us, we're just the slaves, you know.
Essentially, like, it all comes back, every single war that's happened within what we've been able to see, it all comes back to Agenda 21 and the agenda to depopulate the planet as much as it is for profit. So whilst they're making all their money, they're also killing everyone that they want to kill, like the parasites of the planet, and that's what they want.
The chemical weapons used in Syria were brought in and given by the British government. So they were then used on children and mothers and fathers who then had to suffer because they wanted to test weapons. Same with the war. People believe First and Second World War was a setup just to extremely kill off populations because they say the number of people is too much. We're now over 7 billion people. That is where we were before the First and Second World War.
Where do you guys find out your truth?
RT mainly. RT, they're pretty good as long as it's not about Russia. They don't give a cows about any other country. They will show the news. Press TV is a good reliable source, but it's mainly communicating between the internet and between other organisations within different countries and finding out our own information and spreading it around by ourselves that we're finding out this information. As we know, the mainstream media are actually controlled, they're censored out. Even through 9/11, when the BBC reported that Tower 7 went down, and it's still standing in the background on the video. It's like, if you're going to do a cover-up, at least do it properly and half of the job. And also, with illegal wars, because if there's no illegal wars, they're not making no money through the weapons trade. The weapons trade is a multi-million-pound industry each year. So if there's no wars going on, you can't sell no weapons. So this is the reason why all these legal wars are going on. Even G4S are actually in Palestine, running jails in Palestine with children and stuff in. They're being abused, beaten, all sorts in the Palestine jails. And this is coming from sources within inside Palestine themselves, because we've got a few friends in Palestine that are relaying information backwards and forwards. But like I said, if there weren't no illegal wars going on, there would be no need for arms trade. So the reasons why they're doing all these illegal wars is for profit. Because if there's no wars, you can't sell weapons.
If you had the chance to say whatever you wanted to say to David Cameron, what would it be?
Get back to Eton.
Fuck off back to Eton. Yeah.
Yeah, I was trying to be polite.
Here's the gun, do yourself a favour.
But then you look at obviously the leader.
I think everyone within our group kind of feels the same in the respect that we need a complete reset. The government is not working for the people, and it hasn't been working for the people for as long as I've been alive. And we need a reset of how it works, and we're quite capable of governing ourselves.
And to
we've got a conscience between knowing what's right and wrong. We don't need to be told by somebody that's earning a lot of fucking money, how to do that. It just doesn't need to be there. Obviously we do need law, and law does serve to protect people, but that's a common law, it's not legal statutes that are written by MPs for MPs. Draw your consent to pay taxes that are funding illegal wars and killing innocent people.
I hope you got a lot from what you just saw. What I will say is that a lot of people that you won't see on the video decided that they just didn't want to speak to us at all. As soon as we mentioned David Cameron, as soon as we mentioned the government, they flat out refused to be filmed and to have their opinion. Even some of the people who you have just seen in the film, as soon as the camera was turned off, they then felt a lot more comfortable speaking about how they truly felt about David Cameron, and it wasn't in a very, very positive light. This has been Ed TV. Thank you very much.